The table was set like we were still a family. Cloth napkins, heavy silverware, a bottle of wine that had dust on the cork. One Emily had been saving for something special. She decided tonight qualified, even if no one said why. Her parents were in from Chapel Hill. Her sister and brother-in-law had driven down after work. And Lucas, her son, 17 and smirking, had finally decided to show his face just as the food hit the table. I had grilled the steaks myself, mashed the potatoes by hand. The green beans were buttered and blistered with sea salt. Emily arranged the salad like it was a photo shoot. From the outside, it might have looked like tradition. Inside, it felt like theater. I played the role I'd rehearsed for years. Husband, stepdad, provider, quiet at the right moments, generous at the wrong ones. I poured wine, laughed where I was supposed to, passed the serving dish before anyone asked. All the moves a man makes when he knows the spotlight is on him, but the lines are being whispered behind his back. Lucas wore a hoodie despite the heat. Didn't speak until spoken to. When I asked about his classes, he grunted. When Emily's father asked about his plans after graduation, Lucas looked at his phone. No one corrected him. The room had weight, the kind that settles around your ribs, subtle at first, then unbearable. Everyone talked around it, the tension like it didn't exist. Emily smiled too wide. Her sister pretended I didn't exist unless I was refilling her glass. I should have left then. Should have stood up, taken my plate, and eaten alone in the garage like a man does when he knows he's already been written out of the script. But I stayed, because that's what I do. It was halfway through the meal, just after Emily's father bragged about his new SUV and just before her mother asked if we'd considered switching to solar, that the first real cut came. Emily set down her fork, wiped her mouth delicately with the napkin, looked straight at me like she was delivering a business memo. "You're just helping out," she said, calm, almost detached. "Decisions about the kids aren't yours to make." There was no anger in her tone, no warning, just finality, like she had practiced it in the mirror. I didn't respond, not right away. The silence was thicker than gravy. Then Lucas, like he had been waiting for that cue, chimed in, voice sharp and shameless. "We need our real father." He didn't look at me when he said it, just went back to his food like the conversation was over, like I was already fading from the frame. No one objected. Not her father, not her mother, not her sister or brother-in-law, and not Emily. She picked up her fork and took another bite, like nothing had happened, but something had. I nodded, just once. The way a man nods at a surgeon when he hears the word, inoperable. And then I said the words that would be ignored in the moment, but remembered in the aftermath. Okay, then everything changes. That was it. I didn't raise my voice, didn't flip the table. I finished the meal. I made small talk with her brother-in-law about the housing market. I cleared the plates. I even washed the dishes. But I didn't sleep that night. Not next to her. Not in that house. At 3:12 a.m. I sat on the floor of my office, scrolling through transactions. The tuition payments, the extracurricular fees, the groceries, the gas, the birthday gifts, the sports equipment, the late-night Uber rides for Lucas and his friends. My name on every single one. My account. My blood. Helping out. I had carried this house like a second spine. And somewhere along the way, they decided it was temporary. At 7 a.m., I showered, shaved, dressed like I was going to work. But I didn't go to work. I packed a bag. Not all of it, just what was mine. The cufflinks from my father. The watch Emily never noticed I stopped wearing. My files. A few shirts. My backup hard drive. And the leather-bound journal I started the day I married into their life. The pages were full. Not of poetry. Of numbers. Instead of my office, I drove to a small hotel off I-485. Nothing fancy. Just clean and anonymous. A room that smelled like bleach and dust and beginning again. The woman at the front desk didn't ask questions. Just took my card and handed me a key. Room 214. End of the hall. A window facing a parking lot that was already half full. Inside, I dropped the bag, sat on the bed, and stared at my hands. Not shaking, steady, because something had shifted. Not in them, in me. I wasn't angry, not in the way people expect. I wasn't even hurt, not in the way that breaks a man. What I felt was emptied, like a well that finally realized the rope had been pulling nothing but dust for years. It didn't start at that dinner. It started long before, in 1,000 small cuts, 1,000 moments where I was told without words, "You're not him." I had ignored it, endured it, explained it away. But when a man hears it out loud, when it's served with dinner and confirmed with silence, something cold wakes up in him. And that cold doesn't care about love anymore. Cares about facts. Fact, I paid the tuition. Fact, I stocked the fridge. Fact, I spent nights at the ER when Lucas dislocated his shoulder. Fact, I was there. And now? Fact, I'm done. I opened my laptop, pulled up the banking app, canceled the tuition auto draft, paused the payment card for Lucas's ride shares and food deliveries, flagged the recurring subscription charges. All of them. Then I drafted an email to the school's financial office. Effective immediately, please note that I am no longer the financial sponsor for Lucas R. Any further correspondence regarding his tuition or account status should be redirected to his legal guardians. I didn't send it right away. I just saved it in drafts. Then I opened a new document, began a list, evidence. I wasn't building a case out of spite. I was building it out of pattern. The receipts, the screenshots, the times Emily said one thing in private and another in public. The moments Lucas used my money but refused my presence. This wasn't vengeance. It was record-keeping. When a man is erased in public, the erasing didn't start there. It started in the kitchen, in the moments when I was overruled on discipline. When Emily told me I was being too strict. When Lucas rolled his eyes and she looked away. It started in birthday cards that said, "From Michael, not Dad." In Father's Day brunches where I paid but got nothing but a nod. In school emails that listed me as emergency contact number 2. It started long before the wine, long before the verdict. But now it was official, and I was taking inventory. At 9:13 a.m., my phone buzzed. A missed call from the school. At 9:18, a voicemail. At 9:22, a second call, this time from Emily. I didn't answer either. I stared at the screen until it stopped ringing, then turned the phone face down on the bedside table. Let them wonder. Let the cold set in. Let them feel, for once, the absence of the man they had learned to ignore. Took her 2 days to try and erase me completely. Not weeks. Not months. 48 hours after I walked out, Emily tried to sell the house. She didn't call, didn't text, didn't ask. She listed it. It was a real estate agent, polite, confused, who told me. He called while I was pouring stale coffee in my hotel room, expecting routine documents, deed access, authorization signatures. He spoke fast, stumbling over her name like it was cursed. She said she had full rights, said you'd signed off already. I didn't respond. I put the phone on speaker and walked to the window. Watched the sun rise over a cracked parking lot. Watched a woman in scrubs get into a faded sedan. Watched the world move like it didn't care what Emily was doing. The agent kept talking. "I'm just trying to confirm before we proceed. We've had inquiries already." He paused, then added, more cautious. "She said you were stepping back." I smiled at that. Quiet. Empty. I told him what I needed to. The property was jointly owned. Any sale required dual signatures. There were no such signatures. If he moved forward, he'd be complicit in fraud. "I understand," he said. His voice changed. Professional, clipped. "I'll freeze all listing activity immediately." That was enough. I didn't need drama. I didn't need confrontation. I had documents. I had timelines. I had blood in the mortgage, not in the marriage. I texted my attorney. She was already ahead of me. "The sale is invalid. We'll issue formal notice this afternoon. Do not speak to Emily directly." I didn't plan to, but she spoke to me. 5 messages by noon. then 12 more. The first ones were vague. Can we just talk? This is a misunderstanding. I never meant to go behind your back. Then they shifted. You're making this harder than it needs to be. You're punishing me over a dinner conversation? By the time the school called again, this time to say Lucas had been pulled from soccer due to non-payment of the activity fee, the messages had turned frantic. Michael, come on. He's a kid. You can't just cut him off. This is going too far. Please call me. Please. I didn't. Silence isn't cruelty. It's clarity. When someone's ignored your voice for years, silence becomes the loudest answer they've ever heard. That evening, Lucas texted me directly. Why can't we go to practice? What did you do? I stared at the screen for a long time. Didn't reply. I wasn't punishing them. I was removing the lie, the illusion they had all wrapped around themselves like a blanket, that my presence came without condition, without cost, without the need for respect. The next morning, Emily tried again. Not with charm this time, with teeth. I woke to 5 new messages, sent between 2 o'clock and 4 a.m. If you don't respond, I'll go to the school and tell them you manipulated us. I'll say you abused your role, financially, emotionally. You think a lawyer protects you? You think people will believe your version? I forwarded them all to my attorney. Didn't even open most of them. She replied within the hour. The more she texts, the stronger our case becomes. She included a draft of the no-contact filing. My name, date, attached exhibits. Over 50 pages already. Every message, every call log, every receipt. We were building a wall of facts. Cold, heavy, permanent. Emily didn't know she was testifying against herself every time she reached out. By noon, the threats gave way to bargaining. You know this isn't what I wanted. We can fix this. The kids miss you. I almost laughed at that last one. Lucas hadn't looked me in the eye in 2 years unless he wanted something. We miss you wasn't a confession. It was a strategy. Still, I said nothing. And still, she tried again. This time through a friend, one of the dinner guests. A woman who had smiled over wine while Lucas stabbed me in the chest with a single sentence. She messaged me directly. She's panicking. Says you set her up. Said she never saw this coming. I wrote back only once. Keep her messages. They protect you. No more texts after that. That's the part no one talks about. How fast the wind shifts when the money moves. The moment people realize your silence isn't weakness, that it's architecture. The real estate agent stopped returning her calls. The listing vanished from the site. Her sister messaged me, vague, probing. Emily said you froze the account. Are you sure this is the best way? I didn't answer. I didn't need to, because at 3:47 p.m. I got the first call from the buyer, a man with a soft voice and a sharp tone. He wanted to know what was going on. I put down a deposit. I was told the house was ready. Now I'm hearing it's locked in legal freeze. I told him the truth. The sale was never valid. There was no authorization. If he wanted his money back, he'd need to go through her. He didn't like that. I could hear it in the way his voice dropped half an octave. The way he cleared his throat. You're telling me she acted alone? I'm telling you she acted without rights. He was silent for a long beat, then hung up. Emily didn't message again that night. She called. It rang 6 times before I picked up. Her voice was thinner than I'd ever heard it. You've destroyed everything. No, I said. I've stopped you from making it worse. You're blowing this up over one mistake. Over a conversation. It wasn't one. It was the last. She didn't answer. Just breathed into the line like she was trying to breathe through glass. Then, quieter. What do you want from me? I looked out the window. The sky was gray. The parking lot stained with oil and rain. I want you to stop pretending you didn't erase me first. She started to cry then. Small, gasping sounds. Like guilt trying to climb out of a hole it dug for itself. I didn't stay on the line. I hung up. Not out of anger. Out of mercy. Some people have to feel the silence fully before they understand its shape. Later that night, the school emailed again. They'd been contacted by a concerned parent who claimed there was a financial emergency. They asked if I wanted to schedule a call. I replied through my attorney. All future communication must go through legal counsel. I am no longer the responsible party. The reply was quick. Understood. We will update our files. At 10:44 p.m. Lucas messaged again. What the hell? You're just gonna watch us drown? No punctuation. No greeting. Just blame shaped like desperation. I didn't reply. The next morning, Emily's lawyer reached out. The subject line was clean. Proposal for temporary mediation. They wanted a conversation. They wanted clarity. They wanted me back in the equation. Because the house wasn't selling. The tuition wasn't paid. The activities were frozen. The buyers were walking. The account was locked. And the man they told to leave was gone. Completely. It was never about vengeance. It was about math. They subtracted me. Now they could live in the difference. When panic didn't work, she reached for fear. That's the order things always go in. First confusion, then pleading, then noise. And when none of that restores control, people reach for weapons they think still belong to them. Emily's voice messages changed tone overnight. No more trembling. No more please. Just sharp edges and rehearsed confidence. Like she had practiced saying these things in front of a mirror. You don't want this getting ugly, she said in one voicemail. I can tell people you manipulated Lucas. I can say you used money to control us. Do you really want that kind of attention? I listened once. Only once. Then I archived everything. My attorney didn't react when I forwarded the files. She didn't sigh or warn me. She simply nodded, the way professionals do when someone else starts digging their own grave. The more she talks, she said, the cleaner this becomes. A formal no-contact notice was already drafted. Dates, times, attachments, exhibits labeled and cross-referenced. Her words were no longer threats. They were evidence. Emily still believed volume equaled power. She believed accusation could replace ownership. That if she said something loudly enough, it would become true. But paper doesn't care about tone. Paper only cares about sequence. She escalated through intermediaries, friends, distant cousins. One coworker who had never liked me and finally felt useful. She says you're financially abusive. She says you're punishing the kids. She says you planned this. I replied to none of them. Silence, again, did the work for me. Every message unanswered became another confirmation that I wasn't scrambling. People don't threaten when they're winning. They threaten when they feel the ground slipping. By the third day, accounts started freezing. Not mine. Hers. Joint credit lines flagged for review. Temporary holds. Delays. Nothing dramatic. Just friction. Just enough resistance to make every purchase feel heavier than it should. That's when she called crying again. Not angry crying. Not bargaining. Cracked crying. The kind that comes when someone realizes the story they've been telling themselves is collapsing under its own weight. You're ruining me, she said. You've set this up so I can't move. I can't breathe. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't comfort her either. I'm stopping you from making irreversible mistakes, I said. That's not ruin. That's containment. She hung up. An hour later, a friend from that dinner messaged me. The same one who had laughed when Lucas spoke. She asked me for money. The message read. Said you trapped her. I answered once. Keep every message. They protect you. She didn't respond again. The real estate agent vanished completely. No more calls. No more emails. The buyer demanded his deposit back. Loudly. Publicly. Through attorneys. Emily's name started appearing in places she didn't expect. Not headlines. Paper trails. She still thought this was a performance. That if she cried harder or accused louder, someone would intervene and tell me to stop. But no one did. Because I wasn't shouting. I wasn't chasing. I wasn't explaining. I was documenting. And documentation always wins over drama. By the end of the week, her lawyer reached out. Short message. Controlled tone. My client requests all communication go through counsel. That was the moment it finally landed. Not when the money stopped. Not when the sale collapsed. Not even when the threats failed. It landed when she realized she no longer had direct access to me. That the man she dismissed at a dinner table had become unreachable. Not emotionally, structurally. This wasn't about revenge. It was about balance returning to its place. I hadn't taken anything from her. I had only removed myself. And without me propping it up, the whole illusion tilted. That's when people call it cruelty. But cruelty is taking without acknowledgement. Cruelty is erasing someone in public and expecting them to remain useful in private. All I did was stop performing. And the show collapsed without me. I returned on a Tuesday. Not to reconcile. Not to talk. To take what was mine, nothing more. The attorney arranged it. Neutral time. Signed notice. Documentation confirming my rights to property retrieval. There would be no confrontation. No raised voices. No locked doors. Just process. That morning, I wore the same jacket I wore the day we closed on the house. Not out of sentiment. Out of symmetry. My attorney arrived 10 minutes before me. Black folder in hand. Steady voice. No expression. Emily opened the door before we knocked. She didn't speak. Didn't ask why we were there. She already knew. She stepped aside. Her face pale. Her eyes rimmed red. But no more tears. Not for me. I walked past her without a word. Through the entryway I helped remodel. Across the hardwood floors I installed. Past the living room couch I bought after her dog tore the old one apart. Each step felt quieter than the last. My attorney followed. Clipboard ready. Witness required. Upstairs, the office still smelled like paper and coffee. I opened the desk drawers. Took only what was mine. Receipts. Contracts. Flash drives. The second drawer held a gift I'd forgotten. A photo of Lucas and me at his 13th birthday party. He was holding a basketball. I was holding the camera. We were both smiling. I put it back in the drawer. I walked down the hall and opened the bedroom closet. My suits were untouched. Still pressed. Still hanging in order. I packed them without folding. In the bathroom, my razor was gone. So was my toothbrush. Petty but expected. I packed what was left. Quiet. Measured. Deliberate. Downstairs, she stood at the kitchen counter. Didn't speak. Didn't move. Lucas wasn't there. Neither was his sister. Just Emily, watching like a woman staring through a window as her world shrinks 1 square foot at a time. I didn't meet her eyes. My attorney handed her a document. She signed. No questions. The silence in the room was total. Even the refrigerator stopped humming, like it knew this was an ending. Outside, a neighbor across the street watched from their porch. Another one peeked through a curtain. Some nodded. Some looked away. I loaded the car. 2 suitcases. 1 box. That's what 16 years boiled down to. 48 pounds of items, and a lifetime of silence. I didn't look back. Didn't lock the door. That was her house now by title only. Not by effort. Not by history. Not by earned trust. Later that day, I received a letter through counsel. Formal. Dry. Predictable. My client agrees to cease all direct communication. Any further contact must be routed through legal representation. I read it twice. Then I filed it. Because in that moment, I understood the truth that had taken me far too long to see. This was never about love. It was about inventory. What I gave. What they took. What they erased. What they finally had to reckon with. And now everything was where it belonged. The house? No longer mine, but also no longer my responsibility. The payments? Stopped. Reviewed. Reassigned. The boy? Grown but hollow. Fed by my labor, but starved of respect. And Emily? A woman left with the full weight of her choices, and none of the shields she once mistook for love. There would be no reconciliation. No late-night calls. No change of heart. Because what broke wasn't just trust. It was belief. Belief that presence was enough. Belief that sacrifice would be repaid with acknowledgement. Belief that a man who builds someone else's home will one day be welcomed inside it. I buried that belief in the trunk of my car, behind the boxes. and drove away. I didn't cry. I didn't feel relief. What I felt was colder. Certainty. Certainty that I had done what most men never do. Stepped out before I became something unrecognizable. Certainty that walking away isn't weakness. It's the moment a man recognizes he is no longer a partner, just a platform. So I ask you, the ones listening, reading, nodding in secret, was I wrong to leave quietly? To let the silence answer what the years never could? Or was this the only way to make them finally hear me? When paper spoke louder than voice,